The ladder shook violently, a frightened little girl screamed from below, and before anyone could react, the woman who had moved in next door only hours earlier climbed straight into the unfinished treehouse without hesitation. She wasn't trying to save herself. She was trying to save a stranger's daughter. Standing only a few feet away, I could do nothing but watch as she reached the terrified child first, smiled through her own fear, and softly said, "Nice to meet you." In that breathtaking moment, I realized this unexpected neighbor wasn't climbing into a treehouse. She was climbing into a story that would forever change all of our lives. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue growing through stories that remind us that love often arrives when we least expect it and healing begins with one courageous act of kindness. Graham Mercer had spent 3 years learning how to survive without the woman he thought he would grow old beside. His wife, Celeste, had passed away after a long illness, leaving him to raise their 7-year-old daughter, Elodie, alone. The hardest part wasn't cooking breakfast, helping with homework, or braiding messy hair every morning despite never quite getting it right. The hardest part was answering questions that had no comforting answers. Questions like why mothers had to leave too soon or whether memories ever stopped hurting. Determined not to let grief steal Elodie's childhood, Graham made one promise. Every year they would build something together. Something that celebrated life instead of loss. The first year they planted an orchard. The second year they created a butterfly garden. Now, on a warm Saturday morning filled with sunshine, they were building the biggest dream yet. A treehouse. Not an ordinary platform nailed between branches, but a beautiful little wooden retreat with bright blue shutters, flower boxes beneath tiny windows, and a rope bridge leading to a reading corner. Graham wanted it to become the place where Elodie could laugh without feeling guilty for being happy again. Across the fence, moving trucks arrived at the neighboring house. A woman stepped out carrying nothing more than a cardboard box and a tired smile. Her name was Rowan Ellery. She had recently accepted a position as a children's librarian after leaving another city behind. Few people knew she had also left behind a broken engagement that had quietly shattered her confidence months earlier. She waved politely toward Graham and Elodie before continuing to unpack. Neither expected their introductions to happen quite so dramatically. By late morning, Graham climbed higher into the tree to secure the final support beams while Elodie excitedly waited below, clutching a basket filled with brightly painted decorations. Everything seemed perfectly safe. Until one support plank unexpectedly shifted beneath Graham's weight. The unfinished railing leaned dangerously. The ladder slipped sideways. Startled by the loud crack of wood, Elodie instinctively climbed several rungs searching for her father. The unstable ladder tilted again. Graham couldn't safely climb down. He shouted for Elodie to stay perfectly still. Before anyone else could react, Rowan sprinted across both yards. Without asking permission or hesitating even once, she steadied the ladder, climbed carefully upward, reached Elodie, and gently wrapped one reassuring arm around the frightened little girl. Smiling despite her own racing heartbeat, she quietly introduced herself. "Nice to meet you." Those 4 simple words somehow calmed Elodie more effectively than anything else. Together they climbed down safely. Only after both reached the ground did Rowan allow herself to tremble. Graham thanked her repeatedly, struggling to find words large enough for the gratitude he felt. She brushed it aside with modesty, insisting anyone would have done the same. But deep down, all 3 knew that wasn't true. Many people freeze during frightening moments. Rowan had moved toward them instead. The treehouse project paused for safety inspections, but something else quietly began taking shape. Friendship. Over the following weeks, Rowan frequently visited while organizing books on her front porch or tending newly planted flowers. Elodie adored her almost immediately. She loved Rowan's dramatic storytelling voices, endless imagination, and ability to transform ordinary afternoons into magical adventures. Soon the unfinished treehouse evolved into something even more ambitious. Rowan suggested creating a tiny library inside. She painted cheerful murals of forests, castles, and friendly woodland animals across the wooden walls. Neighborhood children began donating books they had outgrown. Parents contributed beanbags, handmade cushions, and colorful blankets. Without anyone planning it, the treehouse slowly became the neighborhood's favorite daytime gathering place. Children arrived carrying books instead of electronic tablets. They exchanged stories instead of competing for attention. Laughter echoed through the branches nearly every afternoon. Watching Elodie smile so freely again stirred complicated emotions inside Graham. For the first time since losing Celeste, happiness no longer felt like betrayal. It felt like permission. Yet healing rarely follows a straight path. One sunny afternoon while sorting old storage boxes in the garage, Elodie discovered her mother's scrapbook. Inside rested photographs, handwritten notes, vacation memories, and unfinished dreams. Overwhelmed by emotions she barely understood, Elodie quietly withdrew from everyone. She stopped visiting the treehouse. She avoided Rowan. She barely spoke during meals. Graham recognized the signs immediately. Grief had returned unexpectedly. He desperately wanted to help but feared saying the wrong thing. Rowan noticed the change too. Instead of pushing conversations, she left little handwritten notes tucked inside children's books delivered to Elodie's doorstep. Stories about brave characters who discovered that missing someone forever didn't mean happiness disappeared forever too. No lectures. No pressure. Only gentle reminders wrapped inside beautiful stories. Gradually Elodie began reading again. Then smiling. Then visiting the treehouse once more. One afternoon she admitted something heartbreaking. She worried laughing too much meant forgetting her mother. Rowan gently explained that memories don't become smaller when we create new ones. If anything, love grows stronger because joyful moments become another way of honoring those who taught us how to love in the first place. Those words changed everything. Inspired by Rowan's kindness, Elodie suggested transforming the treehouse into a free community reading club every Saturday afternoon. Families embraced the idea enthusiastically. Retired teachers volunteered. Teenagers read picture books to younger children. Artists painted murals. Local businesses donated shelves and educational games. Parents who barely knew each other soon became close friends. The little treehouse became the heart of Maple Hollow. Months passed beneath endless blue skies. One afternoon the town council announced an annual Community Kindness Award. Neighbors unanimously nominated Rowan. When reporters interviewed families, nearly every story began the same way. Not with grand achievements. With a simple act. The day a stranger climbed a ladder to comfort a frightened child before introducing herself. Despite receiving recognition, Rowan privately carried lingering pain. Her broken engagement had left her questioning whether she could ever trust love again. She believed perhaps she was meant only to encourage others rather than build a future for herself. Graham quietly wrestled with similar fears. Could loving someone again somehow diminish the love he still carried for Celeste? He discussed those worries with his father, who offered wisdom earned through decades of marriage. Love doesn't replace love. It expands to make room for more. That sentence remained with him for weeks. Eventually Graham invited Rowan to walk through the butterfly garden he and Elodie had planted years earlier. Every flower represented a memory. Every path carried another story. There, surrounded by sunshine and blooming colors, Graham confessed something beautiful. Rowan hadn't entered their lives to replace anyone. She had entered to help them continue living. There was an enormous difference. Rowan smiled through grateful tears. She admitted she had never expected moving next door would restore her faith in belonging. What began as neighboring houses had slowly become neighboring hearts. Time continued moving gently forward. The treehouse library expanded. Children from nearby schools visited regularly. Authors volunteered for afternoon readings. Grandparents taught woodworking workshops. The project inspired similar community spaces across neighboring towns. What started as one father's gift to his daughter grew into something that touched thousands of lives. Years later, visitors often admired the famous little treehouse. Many assumed its greatest achievement was encouraging children to read. Those closest to the story knew better. Its greatest achievement was reminding adults that healing rarely happens alone. It begins when ordinary people choose extraordinary kindness. On a bright spring afternoon, Graham and Rowan stood beneath the same tree while Elodie, now older and wonderfully confident, helped younger children choose books from neatly organized shelves. Laughter floated through the branches exactly as Graham had once dreamed. He realized the treehouse had fulfilled its true purpose after all. Not because it escaped grief. Because it proved grief and joy could exist together until hope slowly became stronger. Mounted beside the entrance hung a small wooden plaque carved by Graham's own hands. It simply read, "Every great story begins with kindness." Visitors smiled whenever they noticed it. Only a handful understood those words honored the moment one courageous neighbor climbed into an unfinished treehouse, introduced herself with a smile, and unknowingly began writing the most important chapter in all of their lives. Before we reach the end of this journey, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing whether someone has ever entered your life unexpectedly and changed it forever through one simple act of kindness. Your story could become the encouragement another person needs today. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May this story remind us that the strongest homes are not always built from wood, and the greatest neighbors are not measured by how close they live, but by how willingly they climb into someone else's difficult moment. Sometimes a single introduction, offered with courage and compassion in the middle of fear, becomes the beginning of a family, a community, and a future more beautiful than anyone ever imagined.